Hey, it's Sade again. I want to say, first of all, thank you for stopping back through and watching my channel. I really appreciate that. Secondly, after I did my last video, I'll admit it was difficult for me to get back on YouTube, but I felt a tremendous amount of relief from my shame that I felt for a while from being a sexual abuse victim, specifically from my mom. It was difficult for me to share just because I haven't really heard of many female on female sexual abuse stories of women who came forward and said that their moms abused them. I've heard about like male relatives and stuff like that, but not the mom. So I kind of felt alone. But I did see a couple of videos on YouTube and women were talking about it, and that really inspired me to really get out there too and talk about mine. But today, in particular, I just want to talk about my process of forgiving my mom. My mom is deceased. She's been deceased now for, it'll be 15 years in June. It's April now, so in a couple more months, it'll be 15 years. It don't really feel like 15 years, but yeah, it'll be 15 years. And so what I want to talk about are just a couple of things that followed me into adulthood, which kind of put a damper on me forgiving my mom. Well, I don't want to say a damper. I'll just say it slowed down the process. I don't feel like I've fully forgiven my mom. I'm starting to see my mom as a human being and applying empathy to my mom. So maybe I don't understand why she touched me, but I do understand that she had to have been hurt herself for her to do that to me. And I'm self-aware enough to know that everybody does things that they regret. Hold on right quick, y'all. I was cooking too. So let me just turn my oven off here. Okay. My son is eating. But I wouldn't say it completely ruined the process of forgiving my mom, but it slowed down the process of forgiving my mom because I had a lot of stuff going on because I believe of what happened with my mom. So I just kind of wrote down a couple things that I want to read to you guys. The first thing that I feel like sort of slowed down my healing process was in adulthood, just being a victim, attracting narcissistic relationships, or just being used or feeling taken advantage of in general. I think that I held on to a lot of relationships way past the expiration date, and it hurt me, but I was so accustomed to becoming a victim that I didn't really know how to break free or even had the courage to break free because it was all I knew. All I knew was like turning a blind eye to things that were going on. It's funny to me when I look back because I always had a soft spot for people, and I've always been a very empathetic person, and I can put myself in other people's shoes, but I never felt like I received that from people. And that was one of the biggest things that hurt me and sort of hindered me as I've been on the journey of forgiving my mom. The second thing I wrote down was just grief in general. For one, my mom passed away when I was 21, and so I spent the majority of the time that she was alive in denial, and I really didn't accept what happened to me until after she had passed away. And so I didn't know how to deal with my emotions because, for one, I was never really taught, how to handle my emotions. And that's another thing that gives me a soft spot for my mom. Like, people can only teach you what they know. And so if she didn't know empathy and if she didn't know how to connect with people in a genuine way, then how could she have taught that to me? But basically, I grew up and I stuffed my emotions away. Whenever I expressed my emotions, I was always told that I was crazy, or told that, you know, my opinion didn't matter and stuff like that, because I was a child. And so as I got older, I took on these relationships in which I could not express my feelings. And when I did, the same thing that happened when I was a child happened. I was told I was crazy, or I was being unnecessarily cruel and things like that for having boundaries or even desiring boundaries, because I really didn't have any, because I didn't have a scale in my mind of what I should and shouldn't deal with, because I was just so accustomed to being the victim, which goes back to the first point I was trying to make. But so I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. When my mom died, I definitely didn't know how to deal with that. Well, I'm not going to say I didn't know how to deal with it. I processed it like a normal human being. I believe, like, going through the stages of grief, you know, acceptance, anger, all these different stages. However, I really couldn't put a name to it because I wasn't taught my emotions. So basically what I'm saying is my emotions ran wild because I didn't really know what to do with them. And for me, they became a burden after a while. And I realized, dang, like, everybody's taking advantage of me. When I need people, no one's around. But when they need me, I'm always around. And I never knew how to put a name to that. And that's because I wasn't taught. It wasn't a part of that. It wasn't a part of my childhood experience. The last thing I put down was over responsibility. So I talk about feeling used and feeling taken advantage of. I did not know how to let that go. In fact, when I started to separate from a lot of these narcissistic relationships that I had, I felt a tremendous amount of guilt. I felt bad. I felt like I was treating them wrong, even though there were times when I was in dire need of healing and help and stuff like that. And I was getting bullied by people as an adult. I still felt bad when I was unable to provide for them, because that's just who I was. It was so ingrained in me that if I did not help, if I did not provide, that I must have been a bad person. And so, yeah, those three things ultimately were distractions from being able to forgive my mom. You know, they distracted me. That victimhood, that deep, overwhelming feeling of grief, that over responsibility that I had, those things stopped me from wanting to process what actually happened in childhood. I was just so used to those defense mechanisms that I just couldn't heal the baseline. So what I did was I started at the top. In order to start the forgiveness process of my mom, I said, you know what, Sade, no longer be a victim. So yes, I started cutting off people. Grief and how to deal with my emotions. I started reading books on managing my emotions, talking to people, being vulnerable, getting help. I took an intercession class. I learned how to pray. And as far as the over responsibility, I've gotten to a point now where I just force myself, like when I go to, like, and it may be small, but I'll go, like yesterday, I went to Trader Joe's, right? I went to just get some low calorie snacks for myself and just some things that I like from Trader Joe's, period. I'm team Trader Joe's, by the way. I love Trader Joe's. So I went to Trader Joe's and I could have easily gotten something for my husband and my son. Listen, we have food at home, but I literally had to force myself to only get stuff that I wanted for me. There was a couple things that I had to put back, but the point I'm trying to make is I release myself from always having to do for others, and in any chance I get to just do for myself, sometimes I'm gonna do that and not feel guilty about it, especially if it doesn't affect, you know, the people I love. Like, they're not affected by the fact that I went to Trader Joe's and got some seltzer water and cauliflower rice and, you know, salmon burgers and little snacks that I like. They're not offended. It was already food at home. They're not affected by it. So as long as, you know, what I'm doing for me doesn't affect others, I'm not going to feel bad. So I rebuke the enemy for trying to make me feel over responsible for other people's faults and burdens and stuff like that too. As a friend and as a person, I can help you, but I have to set my boundaries and say, you know what, I'm gonna not do this. So I can love you and I can forgive you and I can move forward. And that's what it's been about for me in terms of the process of forgiving my mom. I haven't fully gotten there because I'm still kind of, you know, and I'm just being honest. But for me, it's been a tremendous relief healing from that victim mentality, processing my grief, and just separating myself from situations in which I just feel burdened and just over responsible for. So that's been it. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I wish you the best. I'll talk to you soon.